Hi everybody, Dizzy Nails and Beauty here. I've been asked a few times on how I actually attach tips to my silicone hand. First of all, the things I use are these tips from Glitter Planet, and they're skin toned as you can see, and they come in 10 different sizes, not to 9, and I've just put them in this box because they just literally come with in a bag, and this is just a box what my foils came in. So, and I've just labelled them up with my Dymo so that I knew what number was which. And also because a lot of these tips won't fit in the hand itself, I've literally just marked them up for which tips fit in what. On this particular hand it is different numbers. These what's marked up are actually for my Glitter Planet hand. But fortunately for this hand, which is the My Genie hand, some of them fit in this that don't fit in the Glitter Planet hand. And if you want to get some of these, you can get 10% discount. We're using the code Dizzy10. I'll just show you the comparison to the Glitter Planet to the My Genie one. I feel like the My Genie one is more of this natural skin tone, whereas this one looks quite pale, like it's a weird colour. Don't know if the camera will pick that up, but this particular one is much more sturdier than this one. The tips seem to stay in this one a little bit better. This does come with a clamp as well, or you can get it on its own, so you could work on it this way. The silicone itself is much stiffer as well, but I like to use this one because, like I say, it is more realistic colour wise in my opinion. So all I do with these tips is I slide them in, and they do go in. You'll see like how big this tip actually is, and if when I put it inside, you lose the majority of it inside here, which is a good thing because it can try and hold it, but with this particular hand, even holding it there, putting pressure on, still these tips still move. So maybe if I use some different ones. I have used these Macart ones in a previous video, but just used these without actually applying any tips. I'll just show you what they look like in. So again, you're just going to slide this out, and then you're going to put the Macart nail tip in, but you'll see that this literally hits the tip of the finger. So, and you've got the gap here because obviously these are coffin, so you can slightly pull it out, but you've really got no grip here for it. But if you're just doing a nice painted design, then these are okay. If you just want to do some practice on nail art or whatever, they are okay. And you obviously can still glue a tip onto this. So that's the Macart ones, and these are the coffin style. But if I'm doing a set of acrylics, these are the tips and my go-to tips, and you want to be putting this smooth edge into the finger rather than this free edge as I call it, because this edge is quite sharp. Yep, so once you've decided on what tips you actually want to use, you basically, personally for me, I don't tend to tip these down, like cut them down at all, because it's more or less flush. It's not like it's a real person, so it doesn't matter about them snapping off, because obviously I'm only practicing on this. The fun one on the other hand, that does tend to need chopping down a little bit. I do not do any filing on this. I know you've probably seen a few on my videos where I have used the file, but it's exceedingly difficult to do. They slide around everywhere, and that's why if you've watched any of my recent videos, this is just a nightmare to actually file. So basically I'm just going to use an old, I use an old file. So if you're doing clients, obviously because of COVID now, you cannot be using the files. I know like in America and stuff, they're not allowed to anyway, but here in the UK, you was always allowed to, as long as you sterilise them. So what I do, if I've done my nails or my friend's nails or anything like that, I literally just keep these files and I use them on these hands because they're not being used on anybody. And I literally just slide them back out, and I'll hold them and I just scuff them up so it's they're all etched in so the acrylic will stick. So I'll just do that. If your tips have got wells in, then obviously you're going to want to file this tip end as well, the free edge, to mould to them tip ends. Whereas the tips I generally use for this hasn't really got that, so I've not got that issue. And then before putting it back in, I'll just give it a good dust over. And then I'll slide it in. You'll notice here there's still shine, but this is because this bit is actually going to be inside the finger, so I don't need to go too crazy on that. So I'll just pop that back in, and as you'll see, it's all etched up where it needs to be. Then when it comes to actually applying the tips, I just use these tips again. It's from Glitter Planet. I've had these quite a while. I think they was called pre-pinched square tips. Obviously I've had these such a long time, they may not even sell them now, so I don't know what number it is I need, so I'm just going to size that up. Way too big. So I'm happy with that size, and I've gone with a size 8, I think it is. And then I literally use this Glitter Bells base, or I'll use the Kira Sky base. They're more or less the same product as far as I can tell, just a different brand. I don't use my normal glue because this takes longer to set and it can be a bit of a pain waiting. But there is still a trick with the Glitter Bells base glue, because this does take a while to dry as well. So what I normally would do is I would normally place the glue on this one, and then I will put the glue on another one, and while that's sat waiting, that's starting to go off, so it will go a lot quicker. I actually got this tip from Sarah's Secret Nails. I'll link her YouTube channel below if you've not seen her. Her work is amazing, and she gives you so many hints and tips. Been sat there for a fair few minutes, well, a couple of minutes maybe, just by been yabbering, and then I'm just going to place that on as you would do normally on a normal tip. But you're going to have to leave it on a lot longer than you would do on a real person, because there's no heat off this hand. There may be a tad bit of heat off your hand if it's a warm day, some warm heat in the room. But generally I'll hold it for around about 30 seconds, and even then sometimes it doesn't stick, so don't be kind of rushing this stage of it. So once I'm happy and I feel like that's more secure, I'll then pinch these sides, and again I will hold this for a further 30 seconds. I've applied that tip now, and obviously if I was going to cut it, I would cut it as normal, as you would do a normal person. Obviously with this hand I don't need to prep or well, I could actually prep because that obviously gives an adhesion layer, but because it doesn't matter, it's not going to be on a person, so it's not going to get knocked, I'm not going to waste my products by doing that. So I'm just going to use the Tease Beauty acrylic monomer, and then we're going to just come in with some crystal clear, also from Tease Beauty. Again, I have a 10% discount code for them, which is Dizzy10. If you want to go off anything on the website there and get yourself a nice little discount, feel free. Now you're probably thinking, why have I not filed? The reason I haven't took this out and filed it yet is because I do not feel this tip is secure enough to file it, because these tips are flimsy enough, because you're holding it like you wouldn't hold a real person. So although these hands are good, obviously they're not going to give you the full effect of a normal person's putting their nails on. So I'm just going to take a small bead and I'm going to place that on the nail bed itself, as you would call it. And I'm not bothered if I don't hit the cuticle, I try to, but I'm not that fussed, because this to me is going to help secure that tip on for my filing. So I want to make sure this acrylic is covering that nail tip joint. And you don't need it to be big, because you don't want your nails big and bulky. I just want to put a bit more because it's literally finished at that line, which normally it doesn't, to be fair. So I'm just going to put a slightly wetter piece so I can drag it down. Again, just like you would with a human hand, you want to be pointing the fingers down, which can be quite tricky when you're filming, if I'm honest. And it's a very warm day today, so this acrylic is going off very quickly, so I need to work faster. It's a bit difficult when I'm trying to explain what I've done. So I'm not going to carry on doing all the other nails for you, so all I'm going to do is wait for that to go off, and then I shall show you what else I do. Got a little bit of something there on the tip, I have no idea what it is. Also, actually, while we're waiting for that to go off, you can still pinch these with your pinching tools. I'm not that good at pinching tools, but you just have to keep feeling it. Like, I can feel that's getting slightly warm now, but it's still tacky. So I don't generally pinch, whether it's on a human hand or these hands. So, but you still could use a pinching tool. I feel like if I'd had some training on how to do the pinching, I probably would, because it does give you a much better finish. This is quite warm, that, so like if I was going to pinch it, I would just pinch it with my fingers if I felt it was looking a little too fat. But because these are pre-pinch tips anyway, it doesn't matter. So that feels like it's kind of hardened up. Now you can tell, let's just tap it and you can hear it's still not set. Right, it's ready now, so if you're here for this, it's a much louder noise. Now, as you can see, this is not straight, so it's not, the tip itself is not straight, so it needs to come up a little bit more. And it's basically needs that, there's an overhang there. I'm not too worried like this because, like I say, it isn't on a real person, and also it is quite difficult to marry up the tips with these tips, if that makes sense. But just, this is how I do it, and I'm not going to go out buying specialist tips and stuff. When I've got tips I don't generally use on my hands anymore, I'm going to use them up, I'm not going to lie. So what I do then, I will take the tip out and I will file it, and it feels so much more secure having that thin layer of acrylic. To be honest, when I'm doing nails on a real person, I'd always do this thin layer of acrylic anyway, just so that it prevents any staining. If you've got somebody who touches things, you can get this thin layer of acrylic on quick. You can get this thin layer of acrylic on quick, so then they're not touching the natural nail. So that's a really good tip on a human being. Obviously on these you're not doing the prep anyway. And I'm just literally going to file that so it's straight. And then you just pop it back in. Obviously, if you want it shorter, this is where I would also cut it once I've got that thin layer of acrylic on. Yes, it is a little bit more tougher to cut, but it cuts no problem. But when I'm practicing, I kind of like doing the longer nail, if I'm honest. If you want a different shape to this, then this is where you're going to file it. Do not try to file this tip before you do this acrylic, because they can just pop off so much easier. This thin layer of acrylic really helps adhere that tip to that nail bed as such. So yeah, that is how I apply the tips to my silicone hands, and that applies even if I was doing it on the Glitter Planet hand, it applies to that as well. And then you just constantly dust in, and then you're just going to go over again then with your acrylic design, or you could even make sure just do a thin layer of acrylic on it if you wanted to do a nice long gel polish. Obviously file that down, and then you're good to go really with whichever way you want to do it. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'd really appreciate it if you commented and subscribed to my channel, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.